To take out the rear interior body panel, I took out the seat first, and you can look at my video below as to how to take off the seat. That's pretty simple. Now you have to take off the speaker cover. The speaker cover is held in place by a plastic Velcro type of system, and all you do is just pry gently around the speaker cover and you'll get them off. And make note that the light will be still attached if you haven't taken out the light first. After the speaker cover has been removed, you're going to need a T25 torque to unscrew the two screws here and here. Now there is another screw down there, but mine was missing, so I assume that's probably a T25 too. So there's three that you can see right now. To disconnect the light from the speaker panel, what you do is you take a little screwdriver and you press on these little tabs here, and there's one on the other side, but I think you only have to do one. Push it in and the whole light will pop out. To remove the backrest of the rear seat, you start by taking out the two bottom bolts, and they are 17 mil. And here's the bolt, and there's the hole that it goes into, one on each side. So the rear backrest is off, but in order to get to this point, you have to go to the back, reach your hand behind the back seat. It's going to be a tough job, but the back seat is held together by two bolts. They are 12 millimeter onto that metal brace there. But in order to get to that metal brace, because there's a piece of covering, roof covering that covers it, and it's held in place by this trim piece right here, and you have to take this trim piece off in order to pull out the cover, so you can reach your hand behind there and access the 12 millimeter bolts. This trim piece is held in place by 5 little screws, and they are Torx 25. Once the rear backrest has been removed, you can have access to the two screws that holds this panel in, and there's one at the top, one at the bottom. They are a Torx 20. To get the little light out of this speaker cover, you just turn the light, the edge of the light, and see this little groove here. I use that, put the edge in there, and it gives you a little bit more room, and it just pushes right through. Now once that's out, you can remove the bigger cover, the interior panel cover. Once all the screws are out, you just lift it up a little bit, wiggle it out, wiggle it up, and pull out. Remember that your speaker will still be attached, so just disconnect the speaker. Just remember what wire goes where. So the reason why I wanted to access the panel or remove it was to access the rear window motor. Now my window doesn't work, but I think it's something other than the motor. I'm hoping, because now that I have it out, I could feel the motor clicking when I hit the switch, but nothing's moving. So it might have been somewhere, maybe in the transfer case, something. So this is how you would access your window motor if you have an issue with it. So I'm attempting to take as much parts off as possible to access this the window mechanism. This plastic piece here comes off after loosening the two T20 screws. So this bracket here is held on by two bolts. They are 13 mil. There is a nut behind it, so make sure you don't lose that nut when you're loosening up the bolt. The window mechanism is held in place by 4 13 mil nuts. So the window mechanism is finally out, but in order to take that out, you have to clear quite a bit of body structure. What made it a little easier was you have to take off a trim piece and some bolts that was in the mechanism. You can just unscrew that, and then you can just wiggle it and it will come right out. I will be removing the motor and the transfer case, and it's held in place by 3 little screws using T30 torque. The motor and the transfer case is held together by two T25 Torx screws. So the motor's out, and I just want to verify that it is not the motor. I hooked it back up, and here it is. So it's not the motor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just spray a lot of lubricant into the transfer case and just lube everything else with the mechanism and see what happens. Most of the time it's just the transfer case, and sometimes it's dirt and grime that just builds up in the mechanism, and it's just too hard for the motor to move. The motor and the transfer case is back together, and let's now check to make sure that it is actually working. We're good. Well, putting back the window, the rear window with the mechanism intact is much harder than pulling it out. So what I had to do was I had to take them apart. So the window is held together by three bolts. Two are 10 mil, one is a 13. You can probably see it, it's easily identifiable. After the window is taken apart from the mechanism, it fits quite easily into the door, but now you have to put them back together again. I did manage to get the thing in. Now what I did was the mechanism went in first, and then put it into its place with these bottom bolts here, so it stays in place, and that way you'll have your hands free to put in the glass. Now the glass goes in, and it'll fit into, try to get the 13 bolt in first and just hand tighten that, and then once you have that in, you can take the mechanism out again, and by just lifting it up a bit, and it will expose, or the top part of the bottom part of the window will be above the body, and you can access the two 10mm bolts. You can tighten that, put it back down again, tighten the 13. Oh my god, if anybody knows an easier way of putting this in and out, please let me know. But anyways, that's how I got it, and now it's time to test to see if the window actually works. The moment of truth to see if all this work was worth it. Success! 5 hours of work did not go to waste. Just out of curiosity, guys, the rear light in a Saab 900 Classic does say Ford on it. So if anybody knows what model this light came out of, it'd be great if you can put it in the description. I'd really like to know what model that came out of.